Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Client Success Stories with Coach Action Jackson from Action Jackson Fitness. I'm with a star student, an incredible client. His name's David. He absolutely crushed this program. He got six-pack abs for the first time in his life. But here's a quick rundown of some stats. He lost 29 pounds total. He lost 7.6% body fat, getting his body fat all the way down below 15%. He lost 6.5 inches on his waist, going from 39 down to 32, and his strength score went up 300 points, peaking at 1,300. Incredible stats. The numbers are insane, and all of that in just 16 weeks. David, welcome to the program. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, David, 55 years old from California, and just happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I do appreciate your time today. We're going to dive into your whole entire story. The journey's been incredible, and you've been such a rock star, which is super cool. But why don't you tell us, where were you before all of this? Like, was there a point where you were really struggling? What was that like? Was it spinning your wheels? Kind of just dive into where you were before we started working together.
I guess you could say I was spinning my wheels. I would do the same New Year's resolution every year and get going for a few months and see some progress, but nothing that I could really hold on to throughout the year. The holidays come along, other things, summer vacations and stuff like that. And I didn't have the discipline to keep things going. So I knew something needed to change. I needed to figure out what was missing. Something needed to click for me. So, you find something different and try it. And luckily I found something that truly resonated with me.
Interesting. So every year you'd make the same New Year's resolutions. You'd work really hard. It sounds like you would make some progress, but then you'd hit was it a plateau point where you just didn't progress beyond that? Or was it you ran out of gas and you kind of just couldn't sustain it?
It'd be a combination of things. There'd be a plateau for one, which is normal. You get to a certain point and things start to slow down. And sometimes that would frustrate me or discourage me. Other times, I would go on a vacation and then find excuses after I get back to not get back on the horse and put things off. So then things kind of roll out of your control. And next thing you know, you're starting all over again.
I hear that a lot, and that's definitely something a lot of people struggle with. So it's good we're diving into this. Why don't you tell me, like, was there a moment, was there like something that just clicked inside of you? Like, what happened that you said, I can't do this any longer. I'm just so sick and tired of, every year doing the same thing over and over again. Like, what was the thing, the trigger that caused you to want to do something different?
Well, to be quite honest, a good friend of mine at the end of last year, he had an emergency triple bypass, and he's younger than I am. And it was just, it's a real good friend of mine. We'd vacation together sometimes, and I'd known him since high school. He just wasn't feeling right, got checked out, and he had these 100% blockages and had to have this emergency triple bypass. And man, if it can happen to him without really knowing it's coming on, it can happen to anybody. So I want to be healthy into my, I'm 55 now. I want to retire in the next 5-6 years. And I want to enjoy those years, and I want to be around for them. Obviously, I just want to have strong body, good, strong heart. And I want to be able to maintain it without a lot of effort. It gets harder and harder as you get older. So I got to figure out those methods and strategies to be able to continue this. And I, at that point, I knew I had to do something for myself.
Wow. That is definitely a wake-up call. And I commend you for seeing that and sort of responding, because a lot of times it can take a lot worse things than that to happen, even things happening to the individual before somebody will make a change. So I commend you for that. And I'm so sorry that your friend went through that, and obviously that you went through that watching him, but it sounds like he's okay. And you're obviously in a much better spot, which is great. But you see that it's kind of this wake up call. It triggers you. Hey, I got to do something differently. And I say this all the time, but the abs, as amazing as they are, and you have abs for the first time in your life, which is exciting and it's fun and all of those things, it's almost like a byproduct. It's the health, it's the focus, the energy, the confidence. These are the real reasons that we go after this, that we go after the six pack. And the six pack is just the symbol of the success. It's the trophy on the mantle. It's the thing that's kind of fun that we could point to, say, yes, look at this. But it's the health, the activity, the energy, living a long, healthy, active life. That's the real goal of all of this. And it sounds like you're in a much better spot. And you even said, you said to me privately before we jumped on this call, even your cholesterol has improved. So your health markers have improved, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. The health metrics have improved. My resting heart rate has gone from the low 80s, mid to low 80s, down to the low 60s, sometimes upper 50s, which is big. I don't, not that I got winded doing things later. It's just sometimes you'd feel hot when you shouldn't feel hot, and so those types of things you notice.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So cholesterol down, resting heart rate down. And you think about it, like, again, I'm not a heart expert by any means, but you kind of just make sense that you think a heart probably only has so many beats in it, or, after a certain period of time, it beats so many times. And boy, how many more does it have left? So now, because your resting heart rate has gotten so much lower, just think about how much energy you're kind of don't need to tap into unless you're really pushing yourself, right? So you're saving yourself all of those extra beats for when you really need them. And your cardiovascular health is significantly improved as a result. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the actual journey. So you see this thing happen with your friend, it triggers you, I got to make a change. And then you contact me and we kind of get moving. What was it like in those beginning stages? A lot of times people get a little overwhelmed. There's a lot coming at them. You're trying to make all these changes. What was that like? And how did you manage to do it in a way that was sustainable, that got you to this point?
I have to, partially credit the times that I've gone through this before. And I had experience tracking macros with apps and stuff like that. So it wasn't a huge jump for me to dial in macros, and I have a pretty healthy relationship with food overall. I don't emotionally eat or anything like that. So I didn't have a whole lot of problem. I appreciated having the exact macros for me to follow because it was easy for me to follow once I started tracking, and just the process of tracking helps you, kind of figure out what to do when you can't weigh something or you can't look at the nutritional labels of something. So, but it was daunting, figuring out where to fit in the workouts. Before I would, work out 3 times a week and, do it after work. And if I didn't feel like it, it was easy to push it off to the next day. But having a schedule and knowing that someone was looking at that schedule and to see if I was doing what I was supposed to be doing was different. I had to make an effort to, get up early in the morning and get it done before work to make sure it was done. I did that for myself, which is, I'm not a morning person and I'm not a workout. I don't like working out. I've never liked working out. Not a gym person. It's a means to an end. So to do it with such a discipline was an obstacle to overcome for me. So that was the hardest part, just getting rolling with that. But once I got going, especially like the first month of the program where there's no alcohol, and so that's why I waited until after New Year's. That was strict. And, I had friends, you still have peer pressure at 55. So I had friends, that wanted to have weekends out and things like that. I'm this dry January. I'm doing dry January. So, doing those things that I had never done before to that level of discipline was different for me. And it was a challenge, but once I got going and got through it, it became more of a part of my routine and easier.
Got it. Okay. So a lot to unpack there. So it sounds like for you, and I kind of knew this before from our initial conversations, but for you, you kind of had a decent foundation. you had done a lot of different things. You tried different things. You tried tracking. You were obviously worked out before, and you were working out regularly. So for you, it was more just like getting the puzzle pieces lined up, really optimizing things, and then knowing exactly what to do in what amounts, and like just having that checklist. So for you, it was just getting things in a position to optimize them to really maximize your potential. And then it sounds like having that checklist and knowing exactly what to do on what days gave you the accountability to just go check, 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 and do what you had to do. But tell me, and we'll explore two topics here going forward. We'll explore a little bit about how you were able to kind of overcome, kind of become a morning person, push yourself through, and we'll talk about the peer pressure, because I think that's a very interesting topic a lot of people struggle with. How did you manage to wake up early, to get up, to work out, to do these things that you say, I don't necessarily like to do? How do you force yourself or push yourself to do it?
Mind over matter, I guess. I just, you set the alarm early, you get up, you have your pre-workout, and then once you have your pre-workout, you're committed, because you don't want that to go to waste, right? You're going to start getting the little jitters, the tingles, and you can't not work out after that. And plus, my girlfriend uses the tonal every morning too, and she can only use it in the morning. So my challenge was to get in and out before she start using the device as well. So you put your head down and you do it. And then once you get done and you're at work, or later in the day, you get off work, you're like, I don't have to work out. I'm done. It's over. And it also helps, align your eating plan for the day too. When you're going to work out in the morning, you kind of know how to set up your nutrition for the rest of the day too. So those things just kind of, like you said, they're pieces of the puzzle that were, all over the place before, but just kind of started to settle into the pocket.
Got it. So in those beginning stages, you just sort of push yourself mentally and you kind of force yourself to do it. But it sounds like you kind of built a bit of a habit there. Then you started to get into the habit of doing it. You had these little rituals that you would do on a daily basis, like getting the pre-workout and kind of going through your stretch routine, that would kind of get you into it and kind of allow that process to start to build into momentum. And also, it sounds like you had some accountability from your girlfriend, where you were on kind of a schedule and it was like, hey, this is the schedule. This is when things got to get done. And that can be so helpful for a lot of things. And lastly, it sounds like then once you did it and it was done and you felt how good it felt to finish and not have to work out after work, that kind of almost allowed it to build momentum, almost like a flywheel, where you started to build momentum and think, well, this is so great. Like, I don't have to work out now. Boy, I want that again tomorrow.
Right. Right. Yeah. It really kind of helps you plan out your week. I mean, if it's tough when you're a super busy person, or you've got vacations planned and things like that. I kind of chose the time period to begin this program during a block of time where I knew I wasn't going to be going anywhere for a week or anything like that, because I knew, you pay money for a program, you commit to a program. If I didn't achieve what I wanted, it's nobody's fault but mine. So, I had that self accountability as well.
Wow, I love what you just said there. I didn't achieve the results. It was on me. You're really putting yourself in a position to take extreme ownership over your results, extreme ownership, positively or negatively. That is huge. Great book by Jocko Willink. It's on my bookshelf up there, called Extreme Ownership, and it is incredible, life-changing book. So I love that you're doing that. And I find that all the people that sit in that same seat that you're in, who go through these success story interviews, they all share one thing. They take extreme ownership for their progress, positive or negative. So when they come into the program, hey, this is on me. I'm not where I'm at because of me. And when they finish and they're like, this is amazing, I'm at where I'm at because of me. I put in the work. That's how you build the confidence. That's how you trust yourself. And that's how you shift your identity. So this becomes easy when you finish the program. Incredible. Now, we talked a little bit about the peer pressure and it being a little harder at first. There's a couple of reasons why the program's a little harder at first. One, we're taking advantage of what psychologists call a motivation wave, meaning you're most excited, you're most invested in those beginning stages. So let's take advantage of that and make the program a little harder at that point so we could see some big wins early and then build some momentum. But how did you deal with the peer pressure? How did you deal with people saying, oh, just have one drink, who cares, it's no big deal, just do it, skip your workout, doesn't matter? How do you deal with that? Because so many people can't, and they struggle, and then they give in and they crack, and then bam, it's over.
Yeah, it was not easy. We had a couple of weekends at the coast with friends during that first month, one at the very end of the month, and I had told people ahead of time, I'm just letting you know I'm doing a dry January, and I'm like, they're like screw that, you're drinking, we're drinking. And when it came down to it, you know, and sometimes I would cheat a little in that I would get, you know, a soda water with lime and say it's a vodka soda, man. Just to, you know, ease the conversation. I didn't want to bring attention to it, because then that's, people are talking about it, and I don't want it to be a topic of conversation. I just want to do my thing. So it's hard, but you know, I just had to stand firm and you know, drink water, drink lots of it, and trying to have a good time and deal with it when everybody else is a little buzzed and I'm not.
Yeah. And have you had some drinks since then?
Sure, but I've found that it's a lot less than I normally would. You know, any given night where I do drink, it's maybe two tops, and I don't drink every week, so I don't drink during the week. It's the level of drinking overall has come down quite a bit, and I noticed a difference with that as well.
Fantastic. I've definitely seen a decline in how much I drink too, as well, especially as I've gotten older and I pay more attention to how my body feels. But I love what you did there. So what you do is you do something like a tonic water, a soda water with lime. So then that way you're just not drawing attention to it and it's not a topic of conversation. Because when you get into a group, there's this analogy about crabs in a bucket. If you've ever seen crabs, like if you go to a boardwalk and you see a guy fishing or something, you see crabs in a bucket and you think, oh, they're going to crawl right out. But every time one crab tries to crawl out of the bucket, the other crabs pull them down back into the bucket and then go to try to leave. And then they pull that one down and then it just repeats. And that's how people are.
Yeah.
If people are drinking, they want you to drink. If people are eating bad food, they want you to be eating bad food. We're seeing this now. I just got married, and we don't have kids or anything yet, but we have a lot of friends who have kids. So what do they want? They want us to have kids. When are you having kids? Because they want you all to be in the same bucket, right? Everyone wants to be in the same bucket. So what you did was fantastic there, which is just not making it a topic of conversation, kind of avoiding it, but also seeing the bigger picture. This is about health. This is about fitness. This is about longevity. And this is about really reaching those long-term fitness goals and pushing myself to a level that is uncomfortable, that is hard, because I know it's not only going to be worth it, but it's going to change the way I think about myself. It's going to change the standards I hold for myself. And that's what's going to eventually get me into balance. A lot of people think I need a balanced program, but they've been so unbalanced on one side for their whole life that they need to go a little bit unbalanced in the harder end, and that could then balance them out now. So now that you're obviously toward the end of the program, you are incorporating alcohol, but again, just not to the extent you were before. So now you actually have balance, which is fantastic. All these quote unquote sacrifices that I like to reframe as opportunities, right? Not having the alcohol or really cutting down the calories or working hard, getting up early. A lot of people think those are sacrifices. I like to try to reframe them as opportunities for success. And you've been super successful. So now that you've gone through all this, you've done all these things, tell me, was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I feel that I've gained a lot more knowledge than I thought I would in regards to how my body responds to certain things, to certain stimulus, to certain types of foods, to alcohol, to different things, how it responds to the level of effort that I'm putting in, both with weight training and other thing. The recovery process, the stretching and recovery that I'm doing a lot more of now, that's been helpful. Being able to limit the sugar. I'm a chocoholic. love chocolate, and been able to find alternatives to that, and because I feel better when I don't eat a lot of sugar. I know that, and so been able to compartmentalize those things and enjoy them in small, just small doses here and there when I feel I've got some overhead, available for it. And just the knowledge that I've gained has allowed me to not feel like I'm giving anything up, to not feel like I'm really restricting myself. I feel like I eat a lot of calories, but I eat steak, I eat a lot of chicken, I eat a lot of good meat. I've found, different ways to cook things that are really flavorful. I gave up bread. I have some multigrain bread, but I don't eat bread ever. And I'm so much better for it. Pasta, I don't eat pasta. There's just a lot of things that I've eaten less of, but I'm eating more of other things that I also find delicious and fulfilling. So I don't feel like I'm sacrificing very much here.
Oh, that's awesome. What you said there is great. And I love the fact that you again took extreme ownership and you really focused on the education. That's one thing we always try to do in this program is we try to educate clients so that they can learn, so they never have to hire another coach, another trainer, or anything ever again. And they can embrace and take agency and ownership over their health and fitness. I think there's a big difference between people who just simply want to be told what to do and people who want to be told what to do, but also understand the why of what they're doing. I think there's a different level of effort that they put in. There's a different level of understanding. And then there's a different level of education they get. So like you now, you can kind of take control over this and really refine, optimize, and lead a great fantastic life. And then if you get off track, you understand why and how to optimize and get back on track, which is cool.
Right. And that was the key. Just knowing how, if I do go on vacation for a week and overindulge and enjoy myself, I know exactly, I already have a strategy. I'm going on vacation in a couple of weeks, and I already have a strategy for the week after I get back, to kind of make sure I haven't lost any momentum. So.
Wow. That is incredible. When I was in Little League, we had this coach and he made us wear these t-shirts, like warm-up shirts, over our jerseys before the game. And there was a quote on the back that said, "The will to win is not nearly as important as the will to prepare to win." And prepare was in bold caps and underlined. Mm-hmm. That was his motto. Preparation is the key. And what you just said there is, I have a strategy. I know what I'm doing. I'm prepared. And preparation is the key when it comes to health and fitness, to stay on your diet, to get your workouts in, to do all these things. It's about preparation and making sure that you have plans, strategies, accountability. You're working on building habits. You're doing all these things. Then, of course, you get the end result. So that's fantastic. I love that. That is another major insight, I think, for people on this call. Let's talk a little bit. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but just one more thing. What were like some of the big breakthroughs that you had as you were going through this? You mentioned obviously a lot of education stuff, but is there one or maybe two breakthroughs that you had about maybe your limits, or how you thought about something, or something you thought that was one way and it really is another way? Anything that comes to mind that you had along the way? One or two good breakthroughs?
One of the big breakthroughs, and it's been a more recent breakthrough, is trying not to beat myself up with overloading the amount of weight I'm lifting. It's easy to get in a competition with not just yourself, but with what other people are doing and how your metrics are looking, and wanting to just see how high you can get that number on the volume, and that how high you can get that strength score, and that can lead to injury, through bad form. And I realized at some point I was training myself into bad form in a couple of areas, and I was sore in the wrong places because of it. And so making that realization and dialing things back and concentrating on form and time under tension, and really making that connection with the target muscles has kind of really changed things for me and opened my eyes, because I'm sore in a whole different way, but in the good way, where the way I expect to be sore when I work out a muscle I'm trying to work. So that was a big one. through this process, and that's going to help me be even more successful going forward. Another breakthrough probably would be, the alcohol thing. I'd never really given that up to the degree I have now in my previous attempts. I would not that I was a huge drinker before, but I probably haven't had a beer in 4 months. I'm a whiskey guy. I like whiskey, and I'll have one from time to time. But I've really made the realization of how alcohol affects my overall performance and sleep and how I feel in the morning. And it's made it less of a challenge to abstain from it when I want to.
Fantastic. Two wonderful insights there. One quick tip I can give you is Athletic Brewing Company. We've talked about it in the group a little bit. Non-alcoholic beer, much lower in calories, but also fantastically flavorful, like so good. And it gives you that placebo effect that you feel when you pour it into a glass. You see it looks just like a beer, it tastes just like a beer. You're like, wow, it feels like I'm having a beer. I had one last night, and it was great. So that's something you can try. But also the two things you mentioned there. One is just having that awareness to realize that I need to compare myself to where I'm at previously, not to where obviously other people are today. And what's going to optimize me for best results and longevity. And that's, of course, working with proper form. That's, of course, moving through a good pain-free range of motion and comparing yourself to where you are. I think from a I guess a contextual perspective, it's good every once in a while to take your head up and look around and say, what are other people doing, or where are other people at, to learn from people who are maybe a little bit ahead of you. But then it's back to the grind and compare myself to me, because comparing yourself to other people is going to be a recipe for injury, unhappiness, and all kinds of other problems. So that's huge that you mentioned that there. And then also understanding how your body operates in doing something that's maybe not the popular thing to do, but doing something that is going to be good for you, which is the popular thing is to obviously drink with everybody and just be a social drinker and drink alcohol. And it's in our society, it's just repeated over and over again in movies and in TV. If you watch TV, and I'm a big fan of like Chicago Med, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, because I grew up in Chicago and my dad was a Chicago police officer. So I love those shows. But every episode, what they do is they deal with stress, they deal with problems, and then they celebrate all with alcohol. So imagine the conditioning that has on us, right, as we're watching TV or movies or all this stuff. Everything is around alcohol. People celebrate with it. People deal with their problems because of it. They relax. If they want to get romantic with their partner, it's alcohol, alcohol, alcohol. So when we see that, then we want to mimic that in our lives. And then when you step outside and question that and say, hey, maybe let me try removing this just to see what happens. Now you can introduce it back into your life, but introduce it strategically and only include it at the amounts at the level at which you want. So I commend you for that, because that is incredible. You're not bending to the wishes and wants and desires of other people, but you're being strategic and intentional with how you want to consume alcohol, when you want, in what amounts, and how you want that to play, the role you want it to play in your life. So congratulations for that. All right. Last thing I will ask is, if there's somebody out there and they're like, well, David's a beast, but I don't know if I can do that. And they're in their 50s, they're kind of like you, they're spinning their wheels, they're doing a lot of stuff right, but they're just not getting all the pieces aligned. What would you say to them to get them going in the right direction, to help them break out of that sort of cycle, stop plateauing, and start making progress?
That's tough, because until you experience it for yourself, it's hard to really wrap your head around being able to have that kind of success. I mean, I can point to my successes and my experience. I can say, look, this is me 4 months ago, and this is me now. I had a recipe. I had a perfect recipe to follow, and I followed it to the T. I got exactly what the recipe promised I would get. So, that's my experience, but it took this level of commitment, and not everybody's willing to commit to that level. There's varying levels in between. So they're going to have varying levels of success in between. But All I can say is my experience opposed to my history, not being able to get this same experience in the past. And I followed this recipe and this is what happened. That's the best example I can give to try and talk you into following this recipe yourself.
So what you're saying is that the program works.
Yeah, the program does work for sure.
Wonderful. How did you know, one last little thing I want to ask, how did you know you had the commitment and you would be able to kind of just do what I tell you to do? One of the funny things is when I do these interviews, I say to people like, how did you make it happen? And they say exactly what you said. I just did what Jackson told me to do. But how did you know you had the commitment and you had the grit, the tenacity, the persistence to persevere and get to this point now? Or were you not sure?
I wasn't sure. I knew I had some of the tools. I had some of the knowledge and some of the experience doing the various things that are required, but I didn't know if I'd be able to commit to the level that I needed to. But like you said, those early wins, that first month, even that first couple of weeks, when you saw how fast some of the pounds were dropping, you start feeling, okay, I can do this. I can do this. So it's starting to getting those early wins and getting the momentum and feeling like, whoa, this might actually work. And that kind of motivates you to dig in even more at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we set things up the way we do. And I love that. It's maybe you don't feel like I know 100% I can get six-pack abs or I can completely change my health and fitness. And
I didn't think that was
pounds.
going to happen, by the way. The six-pack abs, I thought, it'd be great if I hit these numbers, but nah, I'm not going to get abs.
But here's what happened. You left the possibility open. You were like, okay, I think I can make some progress and I think I can do some things here and I have some tools. I'm going to give it a shot, and you committed fully. And you started to see some progress. And then that got you excited. And then that helped you build momentum. And then all of a sudden you start redefining your limitations. All of a sudden it's like, well, maybe I can get to this next level. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can do this. And you start pushing and going and going and going. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, why can't I have abs? All these other people are doing it. Look at all the success stories. I can do it too. And then bam, you're there. Incredible story, David. You're such a rock star. I mean, the stats speak for themselves, but everything you shared here, the breakthroughs are just incredible. And I want to acknowledge you. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for all the work you put in. Thank you for obviously doing this, but thank you for investing in yourself, for trusting me and for trusting the process and just committing to doing whatever you needed to do to make it work. And I'm just so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so excited for where you're going next because, hey, the journey's not over. Once you get to the six-pack, what's next?
Right. And thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I'm excited to continue working with you and seeing what the future can bring.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks.